del patíbulo.
Girati,
Vediamo un po'.
Dai, preso.
The village green of the Tower of London. But unlike most village greens in this country, where you'll find perhaps a cricket pitch or a mill pond, we've got our own private execution site. And that horrific sight, not you, madam, is marked by that small glass memorial and is not to be confused with the public scaffold outside on the hill. 3 Queens of England and some others were executed in this area, but before I tell you their stories, I'd like to describe a few of the buildings that surround the green. If you look behind you can see the largest of all our towers and the original, that's the White Tower. Work began on that site in 1078 under the direction of a monk called Gundulf of Beck, and it took 20 years to complete. There are turrets on each corner. On the top of the turrets you'll see the golden crowns, and beneath the victim in 1536 was Queen Anne Boleyn. She'd been found guilty of adultery and incest in a trial over there, but I think she was only guilty of one thing. She was guilty of not providing the king with a son and heir. She's 35 years old and she's having miscarriages. It's unlikely the king's ever have a son out of her, and so he's moved on to Jane Seymour. Meanwhile, Queen Anne is an obstacle to a number of treaties with other countries because the Roman Catholic kings of those countries are related to Queen Catherine of Aragon. She must be removed, and she's absolutely petrified at the prospect of dying an agonising death at the hands of a clumsy axeman. She requested that she be executed in the French style with a two-handed sword. This was granted by the king, and a French master swordsman was sent for from Calais. Imagine the scene on the day of the execution. Straw lay all around the scaffold, mainly to absorb the blood, but also to hide the sword, which was wrapped in some sack beneath the straw. The Queen was on her knees with her head bowed in prayer, and the executioner stood directly behind her. When he thought the time was right, he very quietly went down, pulled out that sword, held it in readiness above Queen Anne, and then surprisingly he turned to his assistant and shouted, "Bring me my sword." This startled Anne in such a way that she looked up, at which point he smote her head from her body with one quick clean strike. The head and the body were placed together in an elm box, taken into the chapel and buried beneath the altar. I will show you that spot very soon. 5 years passed, and the next victim here was King Henry VIII's own auntie, Margaret Pole. She had done absolutely nothing wrong. All that she had done was have a son called Cardinal Reginald Pole, and he was grown up and was going around Europe causing trouble for the king. Now the king can't punish the son, so he decides to punish the mother instead, but the proud old lady refused to place her neck on the block. She said, "That's for traitors, and I'm not a traitor." Then she jumped off the scaffold and ran down towards the bloody tower. The executioner and his assistants took off after her, and when they caught up with her, 2 of them held her down, while the 3rd hacked off her head. A truly horrific end to a 67-year-old innocent woman. Within a year, the axe was to fall again twice on the same day, this time on the pretty young neck of Queen Catherine Howard and her lady-in-waiting, Jane Boleyn, Anne Boleyn's sister-in-law. Queen Catherine did not want to make the same mistake as Queen Anne, so she tried really hard to have a baby. Really hard. Not necessarily with the king, but she was definitely trying. Now, she was accused of having a number of affairs, but there was the one with Thomas Culpeper that would be her undoing. She's reported to have said from the scaffold site, "Today I stand before you, the Queen of England, but I would much rather be the wife and lover of the only man I truly love, Master Thomas Culpeper." She probably shouldn't have said that. Thomas Culpeper certainly thought so. He was at the back like this. Jane Boleyn was Anne Boleyn's sister-in-law, and she was executed within 1 hour of Queen Catherine. Her crime, not telling the king of her mistress's liaisons. Now the last queen to die here was Lady Jane Grey, but I'm going to tell you that tragic story inside the chapel, as it's just drier in there, so we're going to be going in as soon as these people